Chris. Hello, Tony. All right, we're going to call this meeting of the Mansfield School Building Committee to order. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the January 13, 2022 meeting minutes. It says 2021 on the agenda, but it's 2022 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Thank you,
I'll
Chris.
move to approve the minutes.
Second from, I'll give my second to Madison. Any corrections? I do think there's one sentence, Tosh, that we should probably strike where it says the committee discussed crack casings of the existing wells and plans to drill new wells. Those are items that were taken care of some time ago. I don't want it to seem as if these are new issues. So I would suggest we make that modification. Seeing no other corrections, and we have a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please give me to say yes or give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, which Chris? I had my head down.
Chris Kiefner.
And you just said Chris. Okay, thank you.
Okay, then that brings us to the OPM update. Adam?
Good evening, everyone. Just a general high-level overview of what I want to talk about, part of the OPM update, and then just the meeting in general. I'll give a little update on the schedule and construction progress, as well as just a little bit on the geothermal. But the bulk of the meeting tonight will be focusing on the FF&E packages and IT packages, which will schedule towards the end of the meeting, where Susan Pinkney from TSKP and Jamie from the town will go over individual packages, and there'll be a lot of motions to be made to approve contracts for each one. So kind of jumping right into it. In terms of the progress of the actual construction, still focus on wrapping up some of the structural elements as we transition more and more into trying to achieve weather tightness. Steel structure in parts A and B of the building are largely complete. The majority of that remaining work for steel needs to occur in the gym once the materials for that portion of the building come on site. And there's still a number of concrete pours that are ongoing for the slabs, largely focused in areas B and A. But the key focal points are roofing and walls. Last time we met, there was the discussion about just weather impacts to some of the roofing materials and looking at schedule. And as we've gone through the past 2 weeks, weather continues to be the largest challenge that we're having, both in terms of temperatures and being able to apply materials, and just the raw snow and things that get in the way of some of the construction activities. As we sit here tonight, the roofing work has started in Area B. It started earlier this week, I believe on Tuesday, but it is pushing about 2 weeks behind where it's expected to be. So the steps forward with regard to the schedule, there's a schedule update due from Newfield for January in a couple of days here at the end of the month. So that will show us where the impacts of the critical path are in terms of the individual line items and the individual sequence of activities. And that's where we'll have to show where those 2 weeks are being made up. So that way we get back on track in terms of the made up schedule. As of now, there's no plans to change any of the school opening in September, but in terms of just transparency, after we last met, the roofing is about 2 weeks behind from where it should be. In terms of the other portions that might impact the schedule, we still haven't heard any reports of any construction labor pool issues due to illness or similar. And in terms of critical material procurement, those largely still appear to be on track. Sort of delays we've seen here and there don't appear to be hitting the critical path, but all the key ones that we've been focusing and projecting out and asking about still seem to be on schedule, and all the reports back from Newfield and their subcontractors and suppliers support that. So those are two variables that have been going in the favor of the project. In terms of the geothermal, the weather has also impacted some of their remake work because a lot of it involves mixing grout, which is difficult to do when it's freezing out because the water doesn't want to cooperate. So there hasn't been a lot of progress on the remake work in the past 2 weeks. The ones that were still approved, circuits 1, 2, 3, and 5 are still approved, and they're currently working on circuit 6. There just hasn't been a lot of opportunity to actually finish some of that completion work. So, we've been, colleagues have been discussing it with Newfield and Newfield with Allied, as well as keeping Craig Raza with Colorado in the loop. But there hasn't been anything to inspect to report on yet. So we'll keep that up as an item for each meeting moving forward, but there's just nothing new to report yet on the geothermal wells. The last item that I wanted to just mention as part of the OPM update, there are a few potential change orders that have come up, and they're being reviewed to see if there's something that actually needs to get approved or if there's alternative details. Case in point, some of them might be time sensitive. So we are looking to see the potential for a special meeting next week if some of them come to rise and if they're over the $10,000 limitation on the subcommittee approval. So Tasha, if that's something you can potentially query the committee just to get a sense of schedules, should we need to have an expedited approval of some change orders. But we'll keep in contact with the committee about that if any of them should arise. With that, I just want to keep it short and sweet for this meeting since we have a lot of items to go through. Any questions for me?
Hey, Tony, and then Chris Kiefer.
Is there anything in the geothermal that's under the actual footprint of the building so that it might delay the actual construction?
No. All the work that's been done so far is way off to the north. And Al can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not on the critical path for work. So any delays due to the weather at this point is not going to impact the building opening at this point.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris.
I am curious, Adam, about the effect of pouring cement in freezing weather and long-term reliability of the material.
Sure. So there are means and methods to ensure that when you're placing concrete in cold weather, that it doesn't have deleterious effects moving on in terms of durability, what have you. Now, there's, as you might have heard from meetings in the past, there's just raw temperature controls that you can have. So, for example, portions of B were tented off and kept warm such that it could be cold outside, but sufficiently warm inside. There's also just reviews of different admixtures and processes. Yeah, obviously, if it were to get to negative 20 degrees, we probably wouldn't be able to pour concrete. But all of the practices and temperatures and weather conditions, et cetera, are monitored while the concrete is being scheduled and then actually put in place. And there have been a number of times where there's the past week or two where a pour has been scheduled and then called off due to weather because it's been too cold. And if they were to place it, it'd be garbage concrete, for lack of a better term. So each one of those is reviewed for every single pour on a case-by-case basis to ensure it meets published standards on temperature and the mix design and placement, et cetera.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Adam regarding the OPM update? Okay, thanks, Adam. So just as a reminder, Tosh will be asking about possible schedules for next week in case we need a special meeting. Then that brings us to the architect update. So Richard or Jeff?
Yes, hi. I'll start and then maybe Jeff can add if he has additional items to discuss. Most of the discussion tonight will focus around the FF&E bids as well as the technology bids. I'm very pleased that those bids came in very favorably. So I'm going to let Jamie talk about technology and Susan talk about FF&E. But it is urgent that this committee authorize the purchase orders of those vendors that we're recommending in order to get those orders placed. Word is that the procurement of many things is slow. And so we want to make sure that this material is available and delivered to the school as soon as the school is ready. So tonight's an important meeting in that regard. I attended with Jamie scoping reviews on Tuesday with several of the technology bidders. It was a very good process. We did it using Zoom. Most of the bidders responded to what the specifications said. A couple of bidders chose not to include certain things or made substitutions, and Jamie will report to that. And then yesterday, on Wednesday, Jamie continued with the scoping reviews with a couple of other vendors, and he'll tell you all about that. As far as the building is concerned, you heard Adam talk about some lag time in the roofing. Just to put it in perspective, at the end of December, you were at the halfway mark for the building schedule. And honestly, I'm getting quite concerned that Newfield needs to pick up the pace in order to get the building done in time for school opening. The date of substantial completion in your contract, as amended by change order number 1, is July 15th this year. Although there's been some suggestion by Newfield that there have been extenuating circumstances, weather, and so on, there has been no formal change in that completion date. That completion date by contract, as executed by change order number 1, is still July 15th. So if there needs to be an adjustment, we need to address that rather quickly. Adam did mention that we're expecting an update on schedule. Colliers and TSKP will look at that schedule and have a discussion with Newfield just to get a closer look at the remaining time in the schedule. So stay tuned on that subject. At this point, I'm ready to turn it over to Susan or Jamie, unless you have any particular questions, or if Jeff, you want to add anything.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add is that we're almost caught up with all the submittals. Actually, my box is empty right now, but I'm sure our consultants have a few that they need to get. So we're trying to stay on top of all the RFIs and submittals as fast as we can get them to Newfield so that they're, able to keep moving as fast as they can. It is cold out there, but I do see quite a few people out there working. So nothing more on my end other than I just issued the site observation report for this month, the second one this month. So it was the 22nd when I was out there. So that's been distributed. Other than that, yeah, we can turn it over to either Jamie or Susan.
So Adam, are we expecting to do those FF&E and tech packages a little bit later in the meeting?
Yeah, my initial thought was to get through those and the single PCO and the invoice, since those tend to be rather turnkey, and then just kind of go through the FF&E in one blast at the end.
Okay, so maybe,
At the pleasure of the committee. So
yeah, I mean, if it's okay, we can maybe have the contractor update first, and then we will move on through those things.
Okay.
Al, are you?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great.
I'm going to share the screen.
Okay.
All right, so what we have here is an aerial shot above the buildings. You'll see that the B wing is complete. They've started roofing in the flat roof area over right here where my mouse is. They'll move into the adjacent flat area and then onto the sloped areas once the flat roofs are complete here. This is area A, which now the steel is complete, the decking's complete. They'll be moving over here after area B is complete with the roof. They're setting steel in area C right now. We did have another delay on the decking for the gym. That's now expected February. So that is one of the delays that we have currently. But this is another view, side view, area A, area B, gymnasium being framed out here. This is the last slab on grade for area B. So now all the slabs are poured in area B, which is a good milestone. Now we can start the interior construction. Masonry has begun. This is the elevator shaft. Once they're done with this elevator, they'll move to stair number 1. We'll get that work going so we can get a stair in place. Exterior framing and sheathing, we're just about done with area B. They are framing area A right now, and hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll have a good majority of the exterior walls framed and sheathed. They've started installing hangers for mechanical electrical items. These hangers here are for roof drains. Once the roof's complete, the drains will be tied in and we'll have the rain stormwater diverted to the detention basin. This is a up close photo of the steel in the 2-story section next to the gym, the cafeteria, and so forth. That is it for photos. It's not going too bad. We've got a lot of people being added now. We got the mason going. We got the framer has about 18 men on site today. So that's going quickly. Everything is going fairly slow just because of the weather. You know, it's in the morning. It's this morning, I think it was 6 degrees or something on site. We're expecting a big snowstorm on Saturday. So that's going to impact the roofing Monday. We're probably going to be just doing snow removal on the roof. We probably won't get any roofing material laid. So right now we're just battling the elements, trying to get closed in. Once we get closed in, we'll be able to get a lot more of the interior finishes going.
Okay, questions for Al? Tony?
In the original scheduling and time frame, did you account, was there an account for snow days and cold weather delays? Or does the original calendar assume work straight through?
The original schedule assumes normal weather activity. In any given year, there's an average of how many snow days you'll have, how many rain days, and so on and so forth. So if you have a abnormally cold winter or a lot of precipitation that's above normal, you normally adjust the schedule accordingly.
So is this a normal winter, or has this been for some shifting in the progress?
We have lost quite a few days due to weather. We haven't completely lost the days, but in certain activities we can't do. You know, if it snows an inch, you know, it's tough doing roofing if there's an inch of snow on the deck. If there's 6 inches of snow, it's you know, you're spending the whole day removing snow. So yeah, the weather does have some impacts to our productivity for sure. In cold weather, like the roofing material, it has to the membrane has to adhere to the insulation below it, and the drying time of the adhesive that's used to bond those two surfaces is considerably more than it would be in a warmer climate. So that impacts the amount of roofing that they can do in a day.
So are you behind the? But my real question is, did your schedule for January, for example, include expectations of 5 days that you couldn't work or on something, and are you behind because of that, or is there something built in that allows you to catch up?
There's certain milestones that we have to meet in order to try to get back on track. So we're shooting to get those complete, like the roofing. If we can get the roofing in area A and B complete by the date that we have for those two areas, we're pretty close to being back on schedule. Our main difficulty right now is that we were pushed into the cold weather season by the unsuitable soils for one, and then the decking delivery of the roof, delayed us on really getting the roof ready for roofing. So instead of doing roofing in November, we're now doing it in January.
I see.
It's a big difference, but we're gonna try our best. We're pushing every day.
Thank you.
Chris McNamara?
Al, one of the concerns that Richard mentioned was that we need to pick up the pace. What can you tell us about how you might be able to pick up the pace? And is there anything that you can do with this pending snowstorm to set up in any kind of way to divert the snow from the roof? I don't know, tarps or I don't know what, snow loads and whatever, but is there a way that you can minimize some of the shoveling that'll need to happen?
No, not really. Depending on how much snow we get. I mean, they're calling maybe for over a foot, 14 inches, something like that. So it would help if we were closed in with all the walls and the sheathing. We do have heat in the lower level, which would melt any snow that's on the deck above, but it doesn't do any good for the roof. So once we get the main level closed in, we at least have some heat in there, which would melt the snow. But still, we can do certain MEP installations like we're doing now, like the hard piping we can do, uninsulated ductwork we could install. We can't install any electrical cables. We can install conduits, but we can't install any cabling until we're watertight. So we're doing what we can with what we have. Once we get to the point where we need to start running cables, we definitely need a watertight roof. So our game plan is to give the MEP contractors 2 weeks to get all their hangers into the open spaces. We're going to be framing some high walls so they can start running some ductwork and piping through the corridors. It's pretty tight in there, but we need to get walls up and some sheetrock or drywall installed on either side because we wouldn't be able to get there once the MEPs are installed. So we have about a month and a half before we need to be weather tight. There is a lot of work that we can do. We're going to start framing interior walls in 2 weeks. So we're moving along with what we can do, and we need to try to maintain that watertight date with the roofing by I think it's the end of February.
Chris Kiefer?
Al, could you go back to your first slide, one of the overheads, or the second one? Okay, go up again. Here's what I'm curious about. The edges of the roofs, the ends where I guess they have to custom cut a piece to make it finished. It's not done in the where your cursor is now, at least based on the picture on the website. It's not quite. Yeah, there you go. Is it finished? Yeah, that section right there. Is it finished in the classroom wings, the other classroom wings?
There is a section at the ends of these sloped roofs that have no decking. There's a pan that is installed at that location with some stiffeners. But we do have an issue with those areas of the roof right now. We have to support the insulation. Once we get going on these slope roofs, we'll have to support the insulation in those areas. And we're working with the roofer right now to come up with a plan for that.
So are those, so when it does snow, and I only get 6 inches on my forecast. I don't know, I'd like to get your forecast, but I understand not wanting it to. And anyway, will the snow, will the melting snow even come down sort of somewhat inside the wall as it would in the elementary area? I mean, in the kindergarten area?
Oh, yeah, once the snow melts, it will come right in, yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious why it's done that way instead of going up from the bottom. It goes down from the top, and you end up with this problem on a slope roof. I mean, whether it's rain or anything while you're under construction, it seems like you're asking for more challenges.
Yeah, you know, it's a very nice detail. I like the way it looks, but yeah, it's not that much more difficult than a flat roof. It's just there's a lot of roof areas, a lot of different sections of roof, which, you know, it takes more time. I mean, if you had like a big warehouse, big box, you know, it'd be fairly easy to roof it. You could get a lot of production in a day, but these are a little small.
Yeah, TSKP doesn't do those, I don't think. The roof that you say is done, it's got the insulation and the what is it, EPDM on it?
This area right, this area here, right in the center. This is the area they're working on now. So they're trying to get this buttoned up before the snow hits.
So that's being worked on, but this to the left is actually finished and ready to receive solar panels.
No, this over here is, all this is just decking.
Okay, all right,
That's
thank you.
decking. That's all, yep. And they're getting ready here in the C area. They've landed the decking on the steel. They're getting ready to set that in the next couple of days. So in the next couple of weeks, you'll see a lot more progress going. They've got these clear story windows. I don't know if you can see them, but between the two roofs, there's a section of wall, and you got these long linear windows, which will get more light into the space. They frame those and sheathe those, so that kind of helps with the heat, keeping the heat in.
Okay, anything else for Al? Mary?
Al, you had mentioned at our last meeting that based on the delays in the gym area, we may have to open school without the gym being complete. Is that something you think is likely to happen? Will happen? Too soon to tell?
Once we get closed in on the gym, another problem that we have is the slab area in the gym is frozen. You know, the frost is probably 2 foot deep in here. So it's going to take us 2 or 3 weeks with heat going in here, just to get this ready to pour slabs. It's those kind of delays that we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and area A is the same. We got, 2 feet of frost in area A, which we're framing up the walls now. Once we get it sheathed and we get the window openings protected, we're going to put heat in there. But again, it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to thaw out the ground just so we can dig to put the underground plumbing in.
So maybe too soon to tell, for sure.
It's too soon to tell. I mean, our concentration in the gym area will be in this 2-story section, because that has a lot of mechanicals in there. And you got your library up here. The gym itself, I mean, the outside of the gym area will be complete. The interior may not be 100% complete when we open.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Chris, did I see your hand?
Yeah, Al, again, I looked at the video today, the live camera, and they were jackhammering frost, getting through the frost. On the outside of, closest to the camera, again, the kindergarten wing, what is going on outside of there? I didn't have plans to look at right then that needed to be jackhammered outside to the far right of your picture. It's off the picture.
We had a ramp. we had once the foundations are poured and we have to get in and out of the building with
Okay.
vehicles, we build a ramp, a soil ramp. And
Yep.
the ramp froze just like the rest of the soil. So they had to jackhammer the soils out so we could start framing the walls in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. If that's it for questions, I do have another meeting. I gotta.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't see any other questions, so we can let you go, Al. But thanks for your update.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay. So then we'll run through the PCO review and the approval of the invoices, and then tackle the FF&E package and and tech packages. So we have a PCO. Adam, you want to take us through that, or Jeff?
I can pull it up if Jeff or Richard want to walk through it. I can share my screen though, so you can look at it. So just to kind of introduce, this is PCO 50, and this is to reroute some of the feeders from one of the panel boards. It was originally inside the building, and it is required to be outside of the building. The amount is for $2,541. Jeff or Richard, do you want to walk through the technical elements of it?
Yeah, I can. Evidently, the emergency panel board and its conduits needed to be routed through a sprinklered space or a 2-hour fire rated space, or encased in concrete. So the decision was to, as far as cost and not taking up any space in the school, to run it underneath the building to achieve that National Electric Code condition.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, you said a key thing there, Jeff. National Electric Code. Who didn't know about the code when this was drawn and approved and so forth? Who did we trust to doing this right and didn't get it right? And why are we paying for it is really the question.
Well, I would say that, honestly, probably our consultant had assumed something that wasn't true, but then the review that happened probably during the review of the submittals and the shop drawings was when it was caught. So the decision was to run it under instead of having to modify any interior conditions, classroom spaces, things like that. So that's basically what I can say on that.
Bummer. And it's going to be outside the building. Where outside?
No, I believe it's underground. Yeah, zoom in on that. Yeah, it looks like it's running behind the next to the music instructional spaces in the underground area underneath the A wing. Rather than coming up and in through the classrooms or through the vaulted spaces.
Does that end under slab? I mean, is it coming in under the slab? That's, well, this is under A wing, so that's not.
Under A, correct, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So in order to do this, we would have to approve this PCO. Is there a motion to approve PCO 50, the amount of $2,541.33 for rerouting the panel board feeders? Okay, thank you, Kathy. And then second, Chris McNabo. Any final comments before we take a vote? Okay, then all in favor of approving PCO 50 as presented, please give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Tasha, did you get that? Tasha. Okay, so then that is approved.
I'm
So
sorry,
then-
yes,
Okay,
I was shaking my head.
okay. So then that brings us to the review and approval of project invoices, which is up on the
Yep.
screen. Go ahead.
Yeah, you see it now. Total pay application for Newfield at just over 1.9 million. Total pay applications through all the invoices is 2,066,949.56.
Okay, Chris McNabo.
I'm wondering if, Richard, if you think that Newfield is not where they need to be, are we paying them too much in advance?
No, Chris, I wish we were paying them more. The requisition was reviewed by us, by Colliers, and the requisition is accurate for the work that they've done. You're not paying them more than what you should be paying them. What I meant when I said I wish we were paying them more, I wish they were more work finished so that we could pay them more. But this invoice accurately represents the work that is in place.
This is Adam, just to expound on that. When the applications come in, like as Richard mentioned, we do review them, and I agree completely with Richard's assessment. There's some items we talk with Al about and ensure that we're in alignment in terms of work completed. So this does reflect the work done. And yes, this would be nicer if it were higher. Sort of oddly to say.
Yep. So Chris, just again to put it into perspective, this represents once it's paid 26% of the total value of their work.
Okay.
And we should be at 40%. Or we had hoped to be at 40% at this
Yeah,
point.
or 50%.
Yeah, or even 50%. Yes, that was my hope.
Okay, is there a motion to, Mary, you want to read the motion?
I don't have one to read, but I think I can wing it. You let me know if I leave anything off. I would like to make a motion to approve the monthly invoice summary for December with payments to CRMA, Colliers, Independent Materials Testing Lab, TSKP, Weston and Sampson, and Newfield Construction. The total amount of $2,066,949.56.
Very good.
Thank you.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Rich. Any final comments? Then all in favor of approving this invoice packet, give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Now FF&E and IT packages. So I don't know who's going first. Richard, are you going to MC this?
I can start.
Okay, all right, great. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, so you guys can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm going to just kind of jump right in here. We have a total of 17 categories in this package, and of those, 10 of the categories came in low bid as specified, which means that we got what we asked for and it was the lowest price. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. These are the ones that we know are pretty much, we can pretty much say are pretty good to go. two packages have an issue. One is the Kubota tractor did not get bid on at all. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on. And then the aerial work platform, they can get it. And I think they were the only bidders on it, in Selco was, but they can't get it until 2023. So that's a point of discussion, I think, that maybe Adam and Scott, you guys can have with the facilities and see if they want to still go ahead with that, or if they want to have another plan, if there's something else they want to get in place of that. Before we award that, we need to determine that.
I think we've got to be just to jump in. I think we got to be careful on project closeout too, because we don't want to have any open invoices waiting where that would hinder us from closing out with the state and carrying additional bonding costs, well past project completion would probably outweigh the total value of purchasing that piece of equipment.
Right. Okay. So moving on now, we have 4 categories where we had lowest bid. There were a few little substitutions in their packages, but they were bid complete. And the substitutions that they submitted were perfectly acceptable. I'm happy to discuss those if anybody wants to. But it was essentially, people are just saying, we can give you the exact same thing, it's just by a different manufacturer. So I don't really have any issues with these packages at all, but I am happy to discuss them if anybody has any questions about them. I'm going to move on to the next set. Now, these 2 particular categories, while we did have lower bids on them, there were some items that were submitted as substitutions that I don't particularly feel are equal to what we specified. Obviously, that is your final decision to make, and this is the one major decision we have to make tonight. The difference between the low bids and the second lowest bid for category AT, that's the administrative tables and seating, is $7,000, and the delta between for the cafeteria tables and the cushions, the floor cushions, is about $6,000. So the total of these is a difference of $13,549 between the lowest bid and the second lowest bid. Now, I'm going to explain to you why I don't feel that these are all correct. There are some things that were submitted that were fine, and then there were some things that were submitted that were not. But I'm going to get into that all in a minute. So here's our total for the lowest bid is specified, the lowest bid with acceptable subs, and if we decide to go ahead with what we as TSKP are recommending this evening, this would be the total for that last set of categories. And that brings us to a total of $1,127,989.12. Then with our estimate, which was at $1,157,000, we do need to deduct from that the price of the Kubota tractor. I can never say that. And so our total estimate for that would be $1,118,597. That gives us that only puts us over by $9,392.12 if we go with the recommended packages. Given the current state of the economy, I think this is actually surprisingly really good. I just had another job that we did, and it was all contract work, and it still came in significantly higher than what we had estimated. So I think that we actually did really well with this set of packages. So I'm going to go on and run through just what the submissions were, so that I can explain to you how I feel about them, and then we'll need your final decision on this. So for category AT, both of the lowest bidders submitted an alternate. What we originally had was this chair called the WIT chair, made by a company called Sit On It. They have a warranty that's 12-year, 24/7. The proposed chair comes from a company called 9 to 5 Seating. The model is called the Neo chair. It comes in all the same colors that we have specified. And the colors are pretty important in this project because we do have that sort of rainbow of colors defining each wing. But they are able to match that. They have a lifetime warranty. And personally, I don't have any problem with this particular submitted substitute. Another thing that was suggested as an alternate by Interscape, who was the lowest bid, was this. It's made by Technion. It's this would represent all of the tables and desks that are for the admins, the specialist desks. And there's a total quantity of about 62 of these pieces throughout the building. Some of them have modesty panels, some of them have casters, but essentially these items I don't really have a problem with. Same with these conference tables, very similar. We have a double T base on this. This has 4 legs. We have a wire manager that is actually inside of a channel or a clip that goes on the leg. So it's kind of disguised. In this case, if we go with this table, we would have an exposed wire, vertical wire manager. I still think that's okay. I think that that's something that's perfectly acceptable. But now we're going to get into some of the things that I think we need to question. We originally specified the KI Strive chair. This chair has a great sit. It's ergonomically designed. It has a contoured seat. It has a flexible back. And these chairs are going to be located in the teachers' rooms. So if I were a teacher and somebody said, you have your choice of one of these 2 chairs and you're going to have to go have a meeting and sit in this chair for the next 4 hours, personally, I would choose this chair over this chair. This chair does not have any give. It does not have any flex. It also has a lower warranty. It only has a 10-year warranty versus the 15-year warranty on the KI chair. So that's item number 1. The next is all of the guest chairs that are located in the offices and in the conference rooms. We have 27 of these. And we have specified, again, this is the same model, the same chair that we talked about on the previous slide, but this has a seat pad in it to just make it a little more comfortable for longer term sitting. This chair, again, 15-year warranty. The casters themselves also have a 15-year warranty. The fabric is a customer's own material. They call it a COM. That has a 5-year warranty. The fabric is stain resistant. It also has a higher gauge on the leg, a thicker gauge for the leg. So the legs are a little bit sturdier. The proposed substitution here is a Verco Sage chair. Now, this particular chair is technically really kind of considered a classroom chair, but you can, I guess you can treat it as a side chair in this case if you want. It comes with a seat pad. However, we are limited to only these fabrics that they have. And the chair only has a 10-year warranty. It has only a 5-year warranty on the casters. The fabric has 0 warranty. This is the kind of fabric that's not stain resistant. I would be afraid that in a year or 2, you're going to start seeing the foam popping out of this. That is probably my biggest concern with this chair. It is, maybe it's fairly comfortable, but I would not say it's as comfortable as the KI Strive chair. So that is how I feel about this particular chair. And my recommendation is still to go with the KI Strive. And then we have the KI Strive again that we have specified. This is in the teacher's lunchroom or the staff lunchroom. We have a bunch of high top tables. We have these stools. Normally I wouldn't, it would probably be, yeah, okay, whatever. They're both tall stools. We only have 12 of them in the building. One thing that I find is it's maybe not as pretty as the KI, but the other thing that I don't really care about too much is that it has these deep grooves in it. And I'm just thinking of this being in an eating space and peanut butter fingers getting on it, and who's going to clean that? And stuff's going to get trapped in those grooves. It's not going to be fun to clean. But, you know, that's, of course, that is one thing to, you know, just take into consideration. Another thing to consider, though, is also that the KI Strive, again, we have our 15-year warranty versus our 10-year warranty. The tables, these tables are located at the end of the cafeteria where we have that little project space. And what we had originally specified is a product from KI that has an adjustable height mechanism and can flip up. These nest together. They can be stored off to the side so that we have our flexibility. And Interscape, the low bidder, proposed that we go with this particular table by Verco. Now, I have nothing against Verco. They can make a pretty good quality product. What I don't care about with this table, aside from the fact that they have a different warranties and everything, is the ADA issue, because it has a bar here. We're required to have 19 inches deep to get underneath this table. Now, Verco will tell us, I know from experience, because I've worked with them before, that they can move that bar back a bit to give us that 19 inches clear. But what happens when they do that is that the other side of the table becomes uncomfortable for someone to sit at. So if you want to use both sides of this table, you now have this bar that's in the way. So that's one of the things that I don't really care about. The next one here, we have screens, and these are screens that are going into special needs classrooms. So this will be for special ed and the self-contained classrooms. These are intended to help to divide up the spaces so that the teachers can keep the students focused on their one-to-one work. We particularly specified this divider because it's very stable. It was designed for an educational environment. It's very durable. It's a really great product. My issue here is that there's a few things here. One is, I think that the bidder got things confused when they specified this was supposed to be 60 inches wide, 48 inches high. They specified a model that's 48 inches wide and 60 high, which isn't really going to do the trick. I looked into it to see maybe they just got some numbers transposed, but the lowest height that they have in a 60-inch wide is 60 inches high. Now, I can theoretically go back to the bidder and say, hey, can you give us one that's 60 wide, 60 high for the same price? The bidder could say yes. But my concern with that would be the stability. I don't see these feet as being quite as stable as the feet that are on this. And especially when you have something that tall and you're working in a classroom where you have children who could potentially escalate and act out, I would be very concerned about the stability of the screens. So I think that's it for this category. Yes. So
can I
this,
just get some
yes.
clarification?
Mhm.
So this is category AT.
Yes.
All of these ones that the substitutions that you're finding unacceptable
Yes.
or
Are
you would
from the low
recommend
bidder.
against are from the low bidder. And so if we
Mhm.
went to the next higher one, we would not have those.
Right.
issues.
We would get the items that we specified that we wanted in the first place with the low bidder or with the second lowest bid, with the exception, of course, of the task chairs, because both submitted those task chairs, which I'm fine with. Yes. So this is what we need to determine. Are you willing to pay the extra $7,000 so that we can get the items that were originally specified? So that's this one category. I'm going to go through the next category. It's a little bit shorter, very much shorter. And this is just for the cafeteria tables and the cushion
Mandy?
Yes,
Can I
yes, Kelly, go ahead.
interrupt Susan before you go to the next category?
Sure.
There's one item that had a substitution that you were fine with that I would like to discuss, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
And it's the conference room table.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's the photos, but I
Yeah.
think there's something much more professional looking about the specified table versus the proposed. Do
Mhm.
you happen to know what the cost differential would be for those two tables? I mean, is that even a possibility?
I don't, but we have to look at the package as a whole.
Okay.
So despite what the cost is for either one of them, the package has to be taken as a whole. So we can't break it out and say,
Okay.
we'll take the rest of the package, but not this. So,
This is Adam, just to clarify. So Susan, if the committee chose to go with TSKP's recommendation for the second lowest bidder, they would
Right.
get that table on the left, correct?
yes, correct. If you choose, let me just go back through just so you can get a quick review. If you choose to go with the second lowest bidder, you would get this particular chair. In this case, you would get this chair. But in the rest of them, you would get the exact item that was specified. We would have the Nevin Skipper model for all of the admin tables and desks. We would have the Nevin Skipper conference table for the 2 conference tables in the main office. We would have the Strive teacher's chair in the teacher rooms. We would have the Strive guest chair with the seat pad in the conference rooms and in the offices as the guest chair. And we would have the stool in the lunchroom. That's also the Strive. and the Trek table, which is in the cafeteria, and then the dividers. So we would have the KI tattoo dividers, which is the more stable, in my opinion, of the two dividers. So
So that,
yes,
right, those substitutes were with the low bidder,
yes,
including the table that Kelly doesn't like as well. That's with the low bidder.
correct,
If we went with the second
correct,
one, we would get the other,
correct.
the one
Mhm.
that's nicer. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I didn't understand it that way. Appreciate it.
Okay, so moving on to the next category. This is just the cafeteria tables, and we have the cushion carts. For these cafeteria tables, what was submitted, or rather what was specified, was a product made by a company called Amtab. We have used Amtab a lot because we know it's an amazing product. We have actually had people come together. We've had the top cafeteria manufacturers are actually Amtab, Palmer Hamilton, and Seco. Anybody who's in the educational industry probably has heard those names because those are used pretty often in cafeterias. We pitted them against each other in one bid, and Amtab came out miles above the others because it has a pneumatic mechanism, a gas lift, so that it's very easy for the custodians to fold these things up. It moves very easily. It's very durable. The underside of the table has an actual laminate backer versus a paper phenolic backer, which makes it more stable and less prone to warping. The stools, even though we don't have a lot of stools in this particular project, because there's just a few that are included with the ADA table still, the stools are an inch wider. They're 14 inches. An inch can make a big difference. They're 14 inches versus 13 inches. And another thing that we find that is really helpful to know is just that they have a warranty that's 15 years bumper to bumper. And beyond that, it goes to a lifetime limited warranty. With the proposed table, it's National Public Seating, abbreviated NPS here. Their warranty is it's a limited warranty, 15 years. It's only a torsion bar lift assist, so it's going to be a much stiffer adjustment for the custodians. We also have a weight capacity rating of 275 to 300 pounds versus 400-pound capacity for the Amtab tables. I mentioned the phenolic backer, the paper phenolic backer already. Amtab also, and I think this is something that's really helpful to know in this day and age, especially with COVID and all the supply chain issues that we've had, the Amtab tables are 100% made in USA. All the steel comes from the USA, all the laminate comes from USA, every single piece and part, the casters, everything is made in the USA. The National Public Seating ones are assembled in New Jersey, and that's it. They do their own laminates, but all the parts they get are imported. So that's another thing that you might want to take into consideration. So my opinion would be to recommend the Amtab table over the National Public Seating table. Now, this is the other substitution that was proposed, and this I'm fine with. The company that came in with this table recommended as a cost savings, they gave us two prices. They gave us a price for this cushion caddy, and then they gave us a price for this cushion caddy. And this one came in less expensive. I am fine with this substitution. They're both very good products. They're both well made. They both have a 10-year warranty. This has a little bit of a longer lead time. Originally, it was only made in Australia. They are now making it in Texas as well. So it is available locally, luckily, because I had a bit of a concern about that. So anyhow, so this product, the foam core, is a very good product. It has a 10-year warranty. The fabric that we're putting on it is going to be very easy to keep clean. The casters are good. I have no issues with this as a substitution. So if we went with this category, we would get this cart, as recommended, I should say, we would get this cart and we would get this table. If we went with the low bidder, we would get this table and we would get this cushion cart. So the those are the two categories that I wanted to address, that I wanted to give you my recommendation on. It's certainly up to you. I have notified the vendors and they are all, I asked them if they could deliver samples. Most of them don't have all of the samples that they would need in their warehouses, so it might take a few days to a week to get all the samples out, but they can have the samples to you in a reasonable length of time if you want to kick the tires and make your own determination about whether or not you want to accept some of these products. But you also have the option to simply take my word for it based on my 25 years of experience and say, we agree, we think that you're right. We think, you pretty much probably know what you're talking about. And we're willing to take that chance and we're just gonna, go ahead with it. So that's what we need to know from you tonight. Are you willing to accept these two second low bids?
Okay,
Back to the numbers.
so there are 15 different packages to, maybe Rich, why don't you go ahead, then I'll ask my questions after that.
Oh,
There's-
I was
there's a-
gonna just ask, I'm sorry.
I was just going to clarify, there were 17 categories. One was not bid. So we're talking about 16 categories. And of those 16, only 2 of them do I think we need to go with the second lowest bidder.
Go ahead, Rich, and then Mary.
My question is, how close are we to what we budgeted if we decide to go with the second lowest bidder?
We are only $9,392 over budget if we go with the second lowest bidder.
Okay, thanks.
It really quick, even though we're not there yet, and I don't want to completely steal Jamie's thunder, you're well below in your technology bid. So don't let this $10,000 sway your judgment.
Okay, Mary.
Susan, thank you. And yes, we definitely value your experience and your choices. I have a question about the cushions, though.
Yes.
When we look at that picture and one storage unit is on casters and the other is not.
They're
what's the
both on
weight-
casters.
Oh, they are. I just
They
can't
are both
see
on
them.
casters. You just can't see the casters that are on this, but they are both on
Okay.
casters. Yeah.
Okay, and they're not going to
Yeah.
take up any more or less space, or would the one from foam core take up more because of the way the casters? I'm just thinking about when they need to be moved out of the way. Is there an
No,
advantage to one of those carts over the other?
No, they're both pretty close in diameter. The foam core cart is a little bit taller than the Norvanivel cart, but otherwise they're very similar in size.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Chris?
How many of these cushions are you getting, and tell me where they're used? Is this something you use for an assembly in the gym where kids sit on the floor? Is it? I mean,
These are
you
in
put
the
'em on
classrooms.
seats in
These
the
are
classrooms.
these are in the classrooms. They're in the media center. They're in some of the specialist areas where you have larger groups. So this is so that the kids can sit around on the floor comfortably and have, whether it's reading time or they're doing something on the floor, some kind of exercises, discussion on the floor or whatever. This is just
Fine.
another way to offer
I
some
couldn't
flexible
get them out of
seating.
the cafeteria because they're in this group. So I kept thinking they were.
Sorry about that. Yes, we have to group these according to how we think people are going to bid them. And so it can be a little bit tricky trying to name the categories because sometimes it's just depends totally on the manufacturer and has nothing to do with what the product is. So
Susan, could you, I could totally concur. I think it was Mary that just said, yeah, your 25 years of experience in this specialty gives you a lot of credibility with me. And I'm, leaning certainly toward your advice, especially when I see things like this AMTAD table versus the other one. It's not, an appropriate replacement to me. 25%, higher capacity for starters, not to mention the better built. But could you just rip through again? It's still not clear to me the point that Randy made, that the new ones, the ones that you are suggesting, are the ones, I'm not, it's not clear to
Okay.
me which ones are
So
getting.
that-
Okay, for just this category or for both categories?
Back to the office chairs and down through.
Okay, okay, so let me go back for a second here to this list, just to kind of clarify things. So
Mhm.
right here, this row is showing us, this is our row for the admin tables and seating. That was the first category I showed you. We have two low bidders. The lowest bidder is Interscape, and they proposed all substitutions for the entire category.
Hmm.
The second lowest bidder was WB Mason, and they proposed, the only substitution that they proposed was this particular task chair, which, as I mentioned earlier, I am perfectly fine with. The rest of the items, though, were proposed substitutions by the lowest bidder, Interscape. And so all of these substitutions are coming through Interscape, the lowest bidder. So if you want to save your, let me see, if you want to save
$7,000.
$7,000 to $7,242.18, you would go with these tables, these chairs on the right, these chairs on the right, this chair on the right, these tables on the right, and these dividers. That's what you're gonna save. That's what you're gonna get if you want to save $7,000, which I don't feel is worth it, because I think that in the long run, you're going to be much happier with the originally specified product.
Okay,
And the
the table-
original,
Go ahead.
I was just to say, the original specified products those were reviewed by Kelly and the administrators. And so, I mean,
We've
that's
talked about
that's
them.
what you wanted.
Mhm.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted, can you go to the table that Kelly was concerned about?
Yes.
Okay, so WB Mason would offer the one on the left for their
Correct.
price. Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, honestly, the table that's on the right is one that I would be fine with. It's probably not something I would select to specify, only because, in my opinion, I feel that the look of this table could become dated over time.
It already
Whereas
has.
the table on the left is a much more classic style.
Yeah.
Yeah, those of us who lived through a few earlier decades can remember some things. This was the
Okay.
stuff that our parents had that was old and outdated back then. So.
Mary, you have another question?
I do. Susan, can you go back to the bid information again? Because now that I've seen
Sure.
these pictures and you've talked, I think I might be able to understand this. Thank you. A
Sure.
little bit better.
Mhm.
Okay. I just wanted to digest this for a second if I could.
No
so
problem. No
I'll do that
problem.
in silence.
Okay. So otherwise, apart from those two categories, the AT category and the CF category, everything, the low bids, match specifications.
There were some substitutions, but they were very minimal. And, you know, I did include them at the very end of the show, just in case somebody
Okay.
wanted to see them. Pretty much it's the same thing,
Okay.
because we had, ironically, we had specified foam core, and Northern Nival was proposed as a substitution. So we have a little reverse going on here. I confirmed with the president of Northern Nival, and I emailed her, and she said, I can absolutely confirm that we can build and meet the spec in the time frame required. I have no problem with that. So that's fine. The substitution here was, I got the wrong, I had the wrong header on that, but this was actually specified to be a Fleetwood product. And then on the right was specified to be, was substituted with an Ironwood product. They're both very good products. They both have the same warranties. The only main difference was that the backing for this one was powder coated steel, and the vendor's trying to see if he can get the powder coated steel for this one, but he doesn't think so. But it would have a finished back, because these will be floating in the cafeteria. So we want to make sure that they look good. Then the next one, this is the library desk. It was basically, it's a custom that was going to be done by Franklin Fixtures. Franklin chose not to bid. And so Red Thread bid on it and said, we'll do it as a custom and we'll build it to your specs. So that's fine. And then the same kind of situation here where we had, this is the original spec was Aurora, which is also called MJ shelving. That was the steel for the library. And then the end panels were made by Warden. A substitution was proposed. It came in only a few $100s lower, but it was still the low bid. And they want to use Hale end panels, which is fine. Hale makes a very good library product. And SD steel shelving, which is in my mind, basically the equivalent to MJ. They're very, very similar, and they're both very good quality products. So these were the substitutions that were put in by the low bidders. Everything else was as specified. So I have no problem with these. That's why that was that second set of categories that I showed you way back at the beginning here. That was lowest bid, that was acceptable, but they did have some alternates.
Okay.
So those were the alternates that were submitted. That's why I said it's a low bid, and to me, it's almost as specified. It's close enough, and I think that we're fine with that.
Okay. All right, so we have a series of motions, and I guess we have to take each motion separately.
Yeah, so the motions that I put together in the Word file and the shared folder, all of them represent basically the motion they would have, committee would have to make and approve, and it represents the package that TSKP is recommending. So there's sort of the three packages: the low bidders that match specifications, the low bidders that had substitutions, but that TSKP thought were fine. And then the last bit were the two packages with the chairs and the table that we spent some time on. So if you read through all the motions, that's everything that TSKP recommends. The only one that we might want to omit is the one for the aerial lift, based on the timing for that. So if you want to just run through them, if that's the committee's decision, you certainly can. Just potentially don't read the one for the EQ2A aerial lift motion.
Okay. Is there anybody here that doesn't think we should go with straight up with the TSKP recommendations? Okay. Does someone have the list of motions, or they can? All right, Madison. We'll try to go through these expeditiously.
Okay, I printed these out in case it was needed. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to award FFE Category A for administrative desks to Interscape Commercial Environments in the amount of $13,195.
Okay, is there a second? Chris, any discussion? Then all in favor, give me a sign. Any opposed or any abstentions? Okay, that looks unanimous. Okay.
I'll make a motion to award FFE Category CL for classroom seating and desks to Robert H. Lord Company, Inc. in the amount of $254,708.49.
Okay, second. Chris, all in favor? Any opposed or any abstentions? Okay, if anybody, if there's any discussion on any of these, speak up, because I'm going to stop asking so we can kind of move through these. Okay, go on to the third one.
I'd like to make a motion to award FFE Category EQ1 for equipment indoor maintenance to Hilliard Inc. in the amount of $38,876.87.
Okay, second, Chris, all in favor? Give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
So can I just ask, equipment for indoor maintenance is like floor cleaning machines and things like that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then we'll skip the one for the EQ2A one.
Okay.
And go on to EQ2C, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
I
And
will,
EQ2, yeah.
I'll move to award FFE Category EQ2C for equipment outdoor maintenance snow blower to Insalco Corporation in the amount of $4,011
Okay, second. Chris McDevoe, all in favor? Give me a sign. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay,
I will move to award FFE category EQ3 for equipment small wares to Hilliard Inc. in the amount of $1,011.19.
second, Chris Kiefner. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
I will move to award FFE category M for miscellaneous to Insalco Corporation in the amount of $145,589.17.
Motion, Chris Kiefner, second. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay,
I would move to award FFE category PR for pre-K rugs to Lakeshore Learning Materials LLC in the amount of $2,423.28.
thank you. Second, Chris Kiefner. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
I will move to award FFE category U for upholstered furniture to WB Mason Co. Inc. in the amount of $8,205.
Chris Kiefner, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
I would move to award FFE category CS for classroom storage and breakout to WB Mason Co. Inc. in the amount of $260,459 at the recommendation of TSKP Studio.
thank you. Second, Chris Kiefner. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay,
I move to award FFE category LD for library desk to Red Thread Spaces LLC in the amount of $6,957 at the recommendation of TSKP Studio.
thank you. Mary, second. All in favor? Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay,
I move to award FFE category LR for library ranges to Pro Systems Installation Inc. in the amount of $55,034.49 at the recommendation of TSKP Studio.
okay, second from Mary. All in favor? Opposed or abstentions? Okay,
And I will make a motion to award FFE category SF for other school furnishings to WB Mason Co. Inc. in the amount of $88,792 at the recommendation of TSKP Studio.
second, Chris Kiefner. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay,
And I'd like to make a motion to award FFE category AT for administrative seating and table to WB Mason Co. Inc. in the amount of $146,529 at the recommendation of TSKP Studio.
Chris Kiefner, second. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions?
And I would move to award FFE category CF for cafeteria and cushion caddies to Red Thread Spaces LLC in the amount of $89,207 at the recommendation of TSKP Studio.
Okay, Mary, seconds. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Great. That concludes then the FFE package discussion. Thanks, Susan. That's
You're
good work on
welcome.
that, and good job with the estimating. I appreciate that. Okay.
Great.
Then we can move on to the IT packages. I guess Jamie will take us
All
through
right.
those.
Right, unfortunately,
I
there are
will.
no pretty pictures in the technology package. Just numbers.
But more importantly, it's well under budget, so.
Good point.
I'm gonna share my screen here. You're going to recognize this bid tabulation format from Susan's presentation. It's the same concept and works the same way. We had a total of 7 different bid packages that bidders could bid against. They could choose to either bid against one package or multiple packages. In each case, you can see on the left, there's the description of what it covered. And then next to it, the estimated budget. And then as you move to the right, we listed the bidder company names. And then you're going to see some colors, which are the same colors you saw in Susan's. Just to review what those colors mean. A blue color represents a bidder who we determined to be the bidder who had a complete package that was the lowest bid of anyone who had a complete package. The kind of peach color indicated that in our review there was a bid inconsistency that didn't meet the requirements of the bid, or the yellow color represents a bidder that chose to provide a partial bid, where they suggested something. As you can see in the far right, you can see the totals. And as a reference, we're pleased that we had a lot of strong proposals that came in under budget. And so overall, we're making a recommendation that falls below budget. Just to go through each
Jamie, excuse me a
category
second.
here. Yep.
Jamie, pardon me. The ones that have no color at all, those I assume were legitimate and just not the lowest bid.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's absolutely correct. So to move through each category, starting from the top, category 1, and then we'll do questions. The first category was the Telcom category. As you can see, we did receive a bid from Connecticut Communications. It's in peach. As noted at the bottom, they did not meet the bid substitution requirements. Specifically, what that means is they proposed a substitution, but didn't explain the rationale why. We did do a Zoom call with them and determined that what the substitution involved was they substituted a very different phone that was of a lower cost type, and we determined not to be an equal and would not meet the requirements of the school. And so we went with the next lowest bid, which was the complete package, which was Total Communications, which was similar in price, but slightly higher, but still under budget. The next category, data network equipment. The winning bid went to Atlantic. You can see in blue, they came in under budget. They met all requirements. We did include a note at the bottom that one of the items we had requested a UPS. They proposed a essentially same UPS, just happens to be a different brand. And so that was an acceptable substitution. The next category, the fiber utilities. This is the fiber coming into the building. And ChimeNet was the winning bid in that case. Hold on, I have a dog barking here, one second.
We should leave the
Well,
parking out.
Jamie's-
Yeah, that's not a big protest, is it, from the dog?
Sorry about that. So
I was just gonna.
the next one, the fiber utilities. We have ChimeNet came in as the lowest bid and fully met the requirements as listed. Next category, the wireless access points. We had Atlantic come in as the lowest bid and fully met the requirements. The next one, printers, you're going to notice a peach color. We had a bidder come in very, very low. And when we did the Zoom call with them, we found that there was a bid inconsistency. Whereas in their bid, they did not indicate a substitution. In reality, they intended to do a substitution that they had not explained. So that in itself would disqualify it. But we did take a look just for our own purposes and found that it was not at all equal to what we were asking for. And then our final two categories, 5A and 5B. In 5A, audiovisual. As you can see in yellow, we had a bidder Gov connection, but they were very open with the fact that they were not doing a complete bid. The big item that was missing there is 5A involves a great deal of labor. It involves installation in every classroom and a number of other spaces, and they were proposing not to provide the installation. And so that's why they're bid package came in so low and was incomplete, and would not meet our requirements or fulfill. R&B, however, did. R&B did propose an alternate where they had suggested a substitution that would not meet our requirements, and so we're not recommending that. And then finally, in category 5B, Gov Connection had a complete bid, and as a result was the lowest bid, and we approved. So in sum total, it was a good process, and appreciated all the folks who contributed to it. Richard, Scott, also Richard Roberge in my office, Sherry Bazansky. We all spent a great deal of time looking at these. So process-wise, we also did Zoom calls with all of the bidders that were either the lowest bidder, or if there was a question mark, the next lowest bidder, to make sure we were clear on what was being proposed. And we're real excited that the result of this is we're essentially getting what we asked for, but at a considerably lower price. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Scott, you had something you wanted to say?
All right, Randy, were you asking?
Yeah. Did you have something you were trying to interject?
I was early. Can you hear me, or is
Yes, I
now
can
okay? Now it's finally working. No, I was just going to point out while Jamie stepped away that, yeah, if there was an issue, as he just pointed out, the lowest or the second lowest one, that he's moved up to were bid. So even if we knew there was a problem, we still, Jamie still scoped out the very lowest bidder just to make sure that what we perceived as an issue was an issue and that they couldn't challenge the bids. So,
Questions? Chris?
I'd just like to comment that I went over is a very, anyway, I went through, flip the pages of the stuff they sent in, and both Susan and Jamie, just the organization you did to, like, when I found the spreadsheet, it was, because the idea of actually having to do what you guys did is pretty amazing. And then to hear what more you did do and talking to people is it's great, really impressive, and really pleased to see it come out this way. Do we have a sense of why this was so under budget and the other one was so remarkably on budget? From anybody? I mean, maybe Susan, maybe Richard, maybe Jamie. Anybody have a sense of that?
I think some of the numbers.
Speak to the technology one, and others can. I will say we were pleasantly surprised. We were anticipating, particularly given some of the supply chain issues and the COVID pieces, we were surprised with each of the vendors. That was, Scott referenced. We made sure we talked with them because we wanted to be clear that they really could provide. And I don't know. The only guess I would have is perhaps it's just, I don't know, it's an attractive thing to bid towards. And also it does help that we've got a good 6 months lead time. If this was closer to the start, I definitely don't think we would have seen these results, but I don't know if others have thoughts.
I think there is an advantage to providing the vendors with a significant amount of time also to process the bid. Sometimes they only get a couple of weeks to put these through. Because we had the holidays, we gave them some extra time, which I think helped with people really getting themselves organized and crunching their numbers to figure out how they could be the most competitive. I think that weighed heavily in our favor. There are some people out here when we are doing bids. There are people like WB Mason typically and in Selco, they often come in pretty low. So the other bidders know that they have to be super competitive in order to compete with these people. When you're working with something that's, say, like a state contract project, everybody kind of knows up front what all the numbers are going to be. And you aren't necessarily getting the best discounting. It's just a more guaranteed discounting. So I'm really glad the numbers came in where they did, to be honest. I'm pretty happy with them.
Yeah, I do want to add, if I may, I'm echoing what Jamie said about the pricing. I think it's just a competitive bid process here, and people were eager. But even though it's 6 months, it's really not that much time I'm eager to have some of these technology vendors signed up and immediately start getting samples or actually products from them. For example, the wireless access points, the WEPs, are actually specified to be delivered to the contractor, and the contractor's electrician installs them. So we don't want to hold up that electrician installing those devices. Other components, like the phones, will be installed by the vendor who's providing those instruments. But they need to be plugged in, they need to be programmed, and we want to, again, not have any delays. There's, I don't know, 79 or 80 of those instruments. We want to make sure that they're all working and have them readily available as soon as the outlets are finished by the contractor. Or in the case of the smart board installations, we want to actually get the bracket on site, review that with the contractor to make sure that it can be installed on the wall that we're specifying. So it's important to get the material in hand.
Chris McNamara, you had a question?
No, can we move to vote on the package as presented by Jamie?
Yes, please. Yeah, let's move on. Madison, you got those?
Hi, yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to award IT Category 1 for telecom and MDF equipment and its installation to Total Communications, Inc. in the amount of $33,463.03.
Okay, second from Chris Kiefner. All in favor? Any opposed or any abstentions? And I'll do the same things I did before. If you oppose any of these or want to abstain from any of them, speak up. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask for all in favor. Okay, next one.
Okay, I'll move to award IT Category 2A for data network equipment, including the UPS equipment, to Atlantic Computing Technology Corp. in the amount of $147,279.73.
Okay, second from Mary. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
I move to award IT Category 2B for fiber utilities to ChimeNet Inc. in the amount of $32,500.
Second from Chris Kiefner. All in favor? Okay, great. Thank you.
I move to award IT Category 3 for wireless access points to Atlantic Computing Technology Corp. in the amount of $81,277.90.
Okay, second from Mary. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
I move to award IT Category 4 for printers to ACT Group in the amount of $20,464.
Second, Mary. All in favor? Okay,
I move to award IT Category 5A for the audiovisual to R&B Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $359,737.35.
second from Mary. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
And I move to award IT Category 5B for information technology to GovConnection, Inc. in the amount of $74,212.29.
Second from Mary. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Then all those are unanimously in favor. Great, that's a lot of work and appreciate Jamie, you coming in and presenting that as well. I know you've been putting in a lot of work on this from the beginning. That brings us then to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Randy, are we, real quick, are we planning on having a special meeting next week?
Potentially. It's not certain yet. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, we're planning to potentially plan for one. So I think Tasha's going to reach out to see see what people's availability is. If we don't need one, then we won't have one. It's just there's some percolation about items that might need an expedited approval to keep construction moving, releases proving. So if we need one, that would be what that was for. So we're trying to anticipate the need if so be.
And
Would we be able to get an update? It sounded like Colliers is going to get an update from Newfield on where we're at with respect to whether there's a delay. Will we be able to get an update on that next week?
If it's ready by then, absolutely. The schedule might be, if we have a special meeting, the schedule might have just been released beforehand, so we might not have had a chance to analyze it. But if it works out and we have the information, absolutely. There's no reason to delay it any further than need be.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up is we had said like a month and a half ago that end of January was going to be our litmus test for whether or not we were behind and if we were going to be able to make this or not. And I'm hearing a lot of concern from Richard, and I'm looking at the fact that we're halfway through and we don't have a roof on, we don't have the walls up, and I'm really concerned. And so at some point, I'd like to hear that, you know, I don't know, I just would really appreciate an update from a perspective of, are we going to make this or not? Because it's starting to feel like we're not going to make it, but we don't have any plans on how to make it. So.
Yep, and that's what this January update is supposed to provide the clarity on.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. And I don't remember if I recognize the motion to adjourn or not. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, Chris, and then a second from Chris McNabo. Then with that, we are concluded, and we'll see you next time.
Everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Randy.